right now. I want to welcome to the program Congressman from the great state of Arizona, Representative Paul Gosar. And Representative, good evening to you, sir.
Cam, good evening. Great to hear from you.
Well, glad you could join us on the program tonight. All right, so let's talk about what happened this afternoon in the House of Representatives. You are asking for a floor vote on your resolution seeking to hold Eric Holder in no confidence, right?
Absolutely. We've seen this ditch effort since October of last year. In just defiance of turning over documents that Congress has full right to have, Cam.
Absolutely. And so what is the status right now, Congressman?
Well, what we've seen is that we thought that the contempt charges would, surely get them started in the DOJ turning over documents. But that hasn't worked. Even the Inspector General's report that we were expected to see sometime this week has been delayed until sometime next week.
Yeah.
And, even some of the breaches that we've heard about implicate both ATF and DOJ.
Absolutely right. By the way, how confident are you that you'll actually get the Inspector General's report next week?
Maybe we should sing "Wish Upon a Star."
I mean, because it's been, I remember, I took off a week of vacation in the third week of August, and I remember talking to my producer, Cameron Gray, before I left, saying, I have a feeling this report's going to come out while I'm gone, because that's just the timing of this. It's been almost a month since then, and we still haven't seen this report.
Absolutely. When I talked to the Inspector General, he had promised that it was coming out in a very short interim, and that was in August. And it's been delayed. And I'm sure parts of that is that it had to be reviewed by the DOJ and Mr. Holder himself. And I'm sure that's where part of the biggest problem is coming is a review of the information by the Department of Justice itself. And I'm sure Mr. Holder's playing a big part in that.
Have you heard the allegations, Congressman, that not only are the Attorney General and senior staffers at DOJ looking over the report, which is not unusual, but that they're actually making changes? Have you heard that? And is that something that these cabinet officials or senior DOJ officials should be doing, can be doing with this Inspector General's report?
They shouldn't, but that doesn't mean that they won't, which means that shows you what's flawed about the Inspector General and why we've been waiting for this report. Mr. Holder continued to say that he's not doing anything till this Inspector General's report. And clearly, we've got a problem here. From what has been leaked out, Cam, they pinpointed three people, tried to make them folks like the whistleblowers thrown under the bus, both Voss, Nelson, and Hurley. And if I'm not mistaken, William Lajeunesse actually highlighted a time in March, I think it's March 5th of 2010, in which Voss was back making presentation and was actually encouraged, not detained, in regards to what was being presented on this gun running scheme.
Well, that's right. And this is one of the interesting things with the release of this Inspector General's report, or when it comes out. That's when we may actually see, I guess, some of the low-level local folks start to come forward and maybe be a little bit more forthcoming about what their superiors in Washington, D.C. were telling them.
Oh, absolutely. And, we've said all along, Cam, is that, you can go back to this inception of April of 2009, and the Attorney General of Mexico City talks about a new aggressive gun running campaign. I harp about it all the time. And he talks that he's working with Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano on a gun running campaign. The following week, the president backs him up. And, there's evidence that they were going to parade the Attorney General of the Phoenix when they had accomplished this. And it's also my understanding in this report that, there was plenty of intercedances, both by upper-level DOJ and ATF, to correct such a foregone, horrendous type of application of the law of interception. And they failed to do so, not utilizing common sense nor practical law enforcement tools.
Absolutely. And so, Congressman, when might this no confidence vote take place in the House?
Well, we would hope that we got some things that we could throw it in tomorrow and put some mustard behind it, particularly for the general election, because This actually shows that how despondent this administration's lack of due process of law actually is, and shows another part about trying to change the law. As all of us have seen and all of us have witnessed in our Second Amendment rights with this administration.
Absolutely.
So I would love to have it then, and if not then definitely in the lame duck session. But I think it has a bigger part to play in bringing to light, our valued Second Amendment rights and justice both to the Brian Terry family and to all of us in the Southwest, particularly in Arizona, where this ill-fated program was conceived.
What are your colleagues in the House saying right now, Congressman? I know it's been a couple of months since we've seen the contempt vote, which did get bipartisan support. Since then, we have really seen no cooperation from the Justice Department or the Obama administration. There's been no sign of trying to resolve this amicably. Are people even more fed up with the administration than they were a couple of months ago?
Oh, they are, and I know some of my colleagues are actually going on to the border. They to witness for themselves some of what's going on and trying to understand, how stupid and how ill-conceived this program actually was. But they're fed up, and this is, from what we've seen and predicted, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But as we have said, and we will maintain till we get the very details, is that those that were accountable for this will be held to the full letter of the law, and it doesn't matter if you're a bureaucrat or it's in the Department of Justice or the Attorney General yourself. You're going to be held to the letter of the law.
You talk about the tip of the iceberg reports this week that maybe guns connected to Fast and Furious possibly found in Colombia, another stash found possibly in northern Mexico. We know that there are still a lot of guns that have not been recovered. And that's one aspect of this. The other, aspect of the tip of the iceberg, this is a really big scandal, and there's a lot to talk about. I know the Inspector General's report is going to be talking about how Fast and Furious was created and implemented. Do you know, Congressman, is the Inspector General's report expected to get into the 10-month period between when DOJ first informed Congress that guns were not allowed to walk, and then 10 months later, the letter from Attorney General Holder admitting that, yes, guns did walk? Are we going to learn anything about that in the Inspector General's report, you think?
We don't know. We just know that the Inspector General had access to, hundreds of thousands of pages of documents and untold witnesses. And in speaking with him, he said that he was going to follow the edits of the law and his responsibility to the jurisdiction of the law. I hope that's true, Cam. I hope that in all responsibility to his letter of oath, to the Constitution and to justice, that he does that. I have some grave misgivings in the fact that this Inspector General is one of the folks that wrote letters of recommendation for Lanny Brewery himself. So I question that. I expect them to apply the letter of the law to whoever and everyone equilaterally. But I in the back of my mind, I fear there may be some favoritism.
Yeah, well, I think we're all a little concerned about that, but I hope that we will see for ourselves next week. In the meantime, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. A pleasure as always, sir.
Well, it's a pleasure, and you just remember for all those folks on Monday, there's a foundation dinner for Brian Terry Foundation, and think of Brian Terry on Monday in all your thoughts and prayers from the family. Also think about the Mexican people that have lost their lives to this, because I still have to say I'm wondering where the Hispanic caucus is in regards to this utter disdain for the value of life for the Hispanic people as well.
Representative Paul Gosar, thank you so much, sir, and look forward to talking again very soon.
Cam, always my pleasure, and thank you for all you do.